Welcome to the Drilling Millions podcast, presented by Sage Dental Partners.
It'd be hard for me to introduce you as just, a dentist, because you've done so many incredible things in the space of business and entrepreneurship, which again is something extremely admirable about yourself and why I wanted to have you on the show. But let's kind of take it back to when you were a student, just starting off in dentistry. What kind of student were you?
I was one that seemed to want to balance things.
I know what that means.
I certainly was competitive enough to want to get the grades. So we spent a lot of times sitting at home studying. But when I was going to say Friday night, but sometimes Thursday night came around, I was always looking for an opportunity to have a good time with my friends.
That's incredible. I love the balance.
And I was fortunate. I mean, I had really good classmates that also functioned that way. So we had a good time together. And
Toronto's the right place to do it, for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you have an entrepreneurial tick in you when you were in dental school, or did you just want to be a straight clinician?
I think I always did. I mean, before I got into dental school, I had created a company where used to move used cars from auction to car lots. Worked as and that was our own company. My partner and my classmate and I started it, and then we'd hired our other students to help us, and we had expanded it to a pretty big business. This was back in high school. So once we left high school, went a different way. But always wanted to. Part of being in dentistry is always wanted to be sort of my own boss, so to speak. What we've built with Ultima is built with that vision in mind. We want our doctors, the people that partner with us, to feel like they are controlling what they're doing, especially the clinical staff. It's 100% in their own hands. When I started with Trident, one of the things I did want to see is that if they could do it, what was it that I needed to do? And learned a lot from them, learned what to do, also learned what not to do, because that company is no longer around. So they made some mistakes. But overall, it was a success. The model itself was a good model. Group practices in retail environments are accessible to patients, and then give them the best possible care that you can. It was all about providing great care. And then, of course, the referrals there and so on and so forth. But that was number one that was being preached, and that's what we try and make sure that all our doctors know and our staff.
And you guys are still around, so you're doing something right.
And we've been around now since '93, so
incredible.
It's almost 30 years.
Incredible. So why pursue dentistry to begin with? Because it sounded like you had that inclination towards the business world.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is that my undergrad, I had a business minor, and I took business courses all through. But I really liked biology. I enjoyed it. I liked the sciences a lot. So my really the you do better. You do better at things that you really like, and I really liked the science side of the equation. But I also liked using my hands, and it was one of those things that as I was flipping through one day, I said, "Hey, this is not a bad profession. I can get to use. I can continue biology. I can learn life sciences. I can help people, and I can use my hands." And it was fun. Still is.
Are you still practicing? I see you're in scrubs, so.
It's my comfort. These are my comfort clothes.
Oh, I could just see the V-neck, so I can't see me under that, but they look like scrubs.
Yeah. It's these are scrubs, but this is just comfortable with them.
It's nostalgic.
Stopped in 2005, and I remember that date because 2005 is when I got into started the MBA classes. So there was the business was growing. Our kids were 10 and 12 at the time, busy with all sorts of stuff, sporting events and this and that. And I started an MBA. Something had to give, and I figured it would be put dentistry aside for a little while. I'll join it again, and it's the business took over.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can't put the kids aside, so something.
No, that's there's no that was a no-brainer.
Something to give. So why choose to pursue dentistry as well as an MBA? Because some people have this school of thought that business should be taught in dental school, given how many dentists end up becoming business owners, and others say, if you're interested in it, you learn it on your own time. So what part are you?
I remember going into like I said, I took business courses in my undergrad. And the reason I was taking business courses in my undergrad is that I expected to get into dental school, finish dental school, run a business. I mean, it's, we in certain parts of certain communities, we're the biggest business in these little towns. We hire people, a lot of people depend on us on the business side of the equation as well as the healthcare. So it is important that we understand how to run a good business. And it's, I took the MBA because we had gone beyond the at that time, I think we are 30 plus practices. So I felt that I needed, just like I had sharpened my clinical tools in the previous years, I figured I needed to sharpen my business tools, and it's helped.
Right on. No, that's a great decision. And I mean, it sounded by at that point, you seem to be focused a little bit more on the business than actually the clinical side. So, I mean, having that, core knowledge is never a bad thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So
but I do think that there should be some sort of a format where there are some basic skills, business skills taught to our students. It's not having an accountant come in and tell you how important he is, or having a supplier tell you how important they are, a real estate agent. It's really understanding, what a balance sheet looks like, and why it's there, and what does a profit and loss statement look like, and where you can, you need to concentrate your time and effort, and if there's a problem, how to fix it. You can have other people, of course, fix it for you. But I think we need to understand what it is that it takes to run a business. Human resources is massive. I mean, 80%, 90% of our time is spent on human resources. You need to have an understanding about, what it is, what it's like to run a business, and people that are associated with that business.
And I think that's a common denominator I see amongst all dentists I have on the podcast. We had on Dr. Bill Dorfman, he does Katy Perry's teeth and, Usher's. So he's a celebrity dentist out in California. And I said, what's the toughest part about running a practice? Because, amongst all of his other ventures, he still practices dentistry. And he said, it's still the HR. I can't get away from it.
I mean, yeah, that's, it's, we have to deal with people, which is a good thing. It's and there are times when it becomes tough, and you have to learn how to navigate that and how to deal with it.
So why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that there's no business training in dentistry? Do you think it's a effect of time?
I think yeah. I mean, we get a really, really good base for what we need to do to go out and care for our patients. But even in dentistry, there's much more to learn. It would be nice if there was something that was structured that doctors could go out and take. Unfortunately, it's less structured for on the business side than it is on the clinical side. With the clinical side, you do have things like the Pankey, like I said, the MISH, and you can go through a continuum. You go from here to here to here, and then at the end, you're capable to do certain additional things. There isn't anything like that for dentistry. It's go and take a course here, take a course there. They have different ideas, and go figure it out.
Hey, I mean, you've made it now. You should go back and say, hey, tuck away one of those histology courses. Let's put a business course in. I'm sure you have some more pull than we.
I think you still need those histology courses. Unfortunately.
Don't tell me that.
Unfortunately, yeah. It builds up nicely. Yeah.
Apparently, it all comes together after 4 years, or at least that's what we're told.
Yes, it will.
So
I,
let's
I, I the fourth year was actually a fun year, because you're most of the time you're treating patients. I was fortunate enough to be chosen to go up to Moose Factory with a classmate of mine, Tony Mancuso, who also teaches these hands-on courses, excellent courses. But him and I went up there, and you actually work on live, just full care on patients that are in the OR.
Wow.
Yeah, well, there's somebody over supervising us, of course, but it feels good. You're actually doing dentistry. You're helping people.
That's incredible. Let's transition over to Ultima and how you started that, because that has just expanded to be one of the most amazing stories that I want to get into. But how did you end up starting your first practice?
I started the first practice with my current partner, Dr. Sven Grail. He's actually a Boston graduate, and so is his wife. His mother was also a dentist, but and we don't live too far away from each other. But we didn't know each other until a patient of mine introduced us. The patient was a guy by the name of Will Manelson. He had done the same for medical as Tridon was trying to do for dental. He set up walk-in retail medical clinics back in 1986. And again, we see them around now, but back in those days, that was a novelty. After Tridons had gone away, we all had our own, kept our practices, but they were individual, separate from any group. He kept telling me that, I know you want to do something with dentistry. I think you should put a dental office inside my medical practices, because medical practices is, the patients are coming, they're waiting, high traffic volumes. You should do well. And at the same time, his lieutenant was talking to Sven Graham, my partner, about the same thing. So when I happened to say, Will, I think I'm ready to go. Why don't we do something in one of your clinics? He said, my VP has been talking to this other dentist. Perhaps you guys should get together and see what you can do together. And so that's how we met. And we set our first practice inside this group called MCI, the doctor's office. They're a medical group mostly in Toronto, but they do have some clinics in Calgary. And the idea was to open up dental offices inside all these medical clinics. It was working well. We had 3 and they were doing fine. The first one was down at First Canadian Place, and it got busy almost right away. But unfortunately, the gentleman passed away. New management came in MCI, and they had different ideas. So that's sort of where the real Ultima started. We had a core set of clinics, but we then decided to start looking, rather than starting them from scratch, is to acquire them. All the good locations at that time were pretty much gone, all the malls. So it was difficult to start de novo in Toronto. And the model at that time, and still is for Ultima, was to acquire practices and transition the dentists that wanted to transition out, support the dentists that wanted somebody to come in, take over the business side of the equation, and they just wanted to do the dentistry. So that's what we've been doing for the last almost 30 years.
Wow. And when you started off with that first dental practice in a medical office, did you ever think that it would grow to the size that it is? Did you have, big aspirations, or were you thinking that you did?
No. We're going to do it. We're going to do what we did.
Amazing.
Well, actually, just on a side thing, a little interesting. The medical group that we first started with, the estate put it up for sale in 2012. So my partner and I bought it, separate entity outside of Ultima. So that's still around. And whenever we get an opportunity to open up if we have space or we relocate and we have an opportunity to put a dental office next to it, an Ultima clinic, then we do that as well.
Incredible. I'm smiling ear to ear because sometimes I speak to individuals that say, oh, it just kind of happened by accident. So I love the intention there, because it's almost, you must have manifested it the whole way through, right? This is what you kind of envisioned for yourself, and you probably work towards that every single day.
The growth of Ultima, absolutely. I mean, we from day one we were going to go open this thing and go and put it across the country.
I'm just taken aback. I almost never hear that. So that's really awesome. That's really awesome. And good on you for at that age and, you know, at that stage in your career, not really knowing what's possible, but, you know, executing against it.
You know, there's, was it a straight line? I don't know. It wasn't. It had its ups and downs. But, you know, it ended up being more ups and fewer downs. And every time you made a mistake and went down, I think we learned from it and just came back a little stronger and did things a little better the next time.
So that's what I actually wanted to get to, because again, you started Ultima around 93. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
In 93, and you graduated a couple of years before that. So you both were still fairly young when you started. So not to say that you're not young now, but
no. You know what? You're absolutely right. My Sven is younger than I am, but he had already had his 3 daughters. One was 1 year old, the other were 3. My wife was pregnant with our first child when we decided to do this. So our hats off to them too for letting two guys go off and you know, do what they dreamed. They supported us.
So what were some of those growing pains? Because I assume that, you know, you didn't have an MBA before that. You had your DDS, although you did do some business training. But what were some of those growing pains?
The biggest one was trying to hurdle the failure of Tridon. When Tridon failed in 1989, 90, and there was another recession that hit in 91. Going and starting practices new and getting bank debt to help you do that was extremely difficult. Nobody would lend us money. Everybody was saying the model doesn't work. Didn't you see what happened to Tridon? And I was going, your model works. You just can't make the mistakes they did. So we self-funded for the longest time, and even right up until about 2016 when we brought in the private equity group. It was really through the company itself that was able to on limited financing build itself up to where it was. Yeah.
Wow,
that was the biggest one. But then the other one was this concept of, well, you know, you're a group, and since you're a group, you always look for shortcuts and you don't provide good care. And it was a battle to try and make sure that people understood that we're building these entities and running these entities as if we're practicing in them and as if we're sending our families to them. So we want our doctors to provide the best possible care that they can to these patients, because no matter how much we advertise, no matter how many clinics we have, it's really word of mouth and referral that drives growth in all these businesses. To this day, no matter how much money I put on advertising, 50% of my patient flow comes from referrals.
And that's probably a testament to their service at Ultima.
And that's what we try. Yes.